And staying in the United States, the Supreme Court debated for over 2 hours whether civic authorities had the right to fine people for being homeless. Now, this comes after a town called Grant Pass in Oregon imposed fines on people who were homeless and who were camping on public property, including city parks. As homelessness reaches a record high in the country, the Supreme Court fears that more local authorities will implement anti-camping orders. So has being homeless now become a crime in the United States? Our next report explains the situation further.
One of the most significant cases in decades is bothering the Supreme Court of the United States. Now, it's not about abortion or freedom of speech. Instead, it's about camping. Yes, camping, a fun activity that people undertake in nature to get away from the hustle and bustle of city life. Except now, camping has a new meaning, particularly in a small town called Grants Pass in the state of Oregon. The town's local government has passed an ordinance that bans camping. Here's how local authorities term it. Bedding, sleeping bag or other material used for bedding purpose or any stove or fire is banned on public property and public parks. Violators are being fined up to $295. Some even face a jail term of 20 days if they're repeat offenders. So why did this town in Oregon take such a drastic step against camping? It's to fight the growing number of homeless people. Homelessness is on the rise in the US. The country saw a 12% increase overall and a 15% increase in major cities. And now Grants Pass in Oregon has decided to tackle homelessness by making it illegal. That's right, if you don't have a roof to sleep under and are using public property to sleep, you're committing a crime. Now the Supreme Court is worried that this will create a chain reaction across other American cities. The judges debated for over 2.5 hours, but local community members are worried about further implications.
To be honest, I don't have high hopes for how the Supreme Court is going to rule. I think that they are probably going to make a decision that is going to harm houseless people. And I think the really sad part about it is that we're creating the illusion that we're resolving these issues when really, if we don't have enough affordable housing, we're just going to keep seeing more houseless people on the streets anyways.
Protests erupted outside the Supreme Court demanding protection for homeless people.
That homelessness is not a crime, that people on the streets need housing and support, and that by putting penalties on them, showing fines on them, that's not going to get them in housing. That's actually going to make the problem worse.
Demonstrations continued against the authorities of Grants Pass in Oregon.
Can you imagine anything more cruel and unusual than throwing somebody in jail for using a blanket in the middle of the freezing winter? I can't, but that is just what Grants Pass did. Does that seem fair to you? Does that seem fair to you? I agree. And so do 72% of Americans. And in fact, every court that has heard this case agrees that throwing people in jail when they have no safe place to sleep is cruel and unusual punishment.
The town of Grants Pass has a population of just about 40,000 people. However, they've already begun issuing citations to homeless people who use public spaces. Many other towns in major cities are grappling with rising homelessness. The Department of Housing and Urban Development estimates that over 256,000 Americans are without homes. The state of California has 1/3 of all the country's homeless residents, with local authorities failing to provide shelters to the unfortunate people. They have now begun extorting money from them in the form of fines, and this has all the indicators of making the homelessness crisis worse.
From impeachments to inaugurations, if it's a political story, we are on the scene. The race for the White House is heating up.
We're beating Biden.
How dare he say that?
If it's breaking news, we're live with the latest coverage. From the White House, the State Department, and Capitol Hill, we know the issues, but above all, we know the players to bring you the latest in-depth analysis on all the key stories that we're covering. I'm Eric Ham. Join me from Washington here on Firstpost America.